back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, I am here today for a very exciting video. It occurred to me a few days ago that in 2014 I made 2 videos talking about my all-time top favourite fantasy ever. And I did that twice in 2014. I think I did it once at the very start of the year and then I did an update like a couple of months later. So I'm going to link both of those up in the cards and down in the little description box. If you've not already seen them, go and check them out because all of those series, all of those things I mentioned are still favourites for me. I love them all. I would recommend them all. If you want fantasy recommendations, seriously check them out. They are my most watched videos ever. People seem to like them. So I decided, seeing as I've read quite a lot of new series since then, or new to me, I thought I needed to update it again. I haven't done an update for a while and it's about time that I did. So let's get started. I'm going to dive straight in. There's no order to this except for my number 1 favourite, which stands above the rest. But all of these I would recommend, so let's get started. The first thing I want to recommend to you is the start of a new series, which is 12 Kings by Bradley Beaulieu. This is a series that I absolutely love so far. At the moment there is just 1 book out, but there is a second one coming out next year, and in the meantime there was also a novella that was released which is part of the same world, and it's a prequel to this one. So you can read this as a first entry point, or you can start with 12 Kings and read this after. It's totally up to you. I love this series. It's about a young girl called Jada who has magic of a kind in her world. It's very, very dark, twisted magic. It's quite weird. It definitely takes its own toll on you, but it's so interesting. She is also a pit fighter, so she's a very, very kick-ass female character who definitely stands on her own 2 feet and doesn't rely on anyone else or need anyone else. She and her mother have a very special bond which we see in the course of this book, and she also has a great best friend who is absolutely so lovely, and they have a really nice bond too, which you also see more in this book but somewhat in this. I love the relationships that Bradley Beaulieu brings up in this series. It's fantastic, and it's great to see a male author writing a female character who's not just hard as nails but actually has some emotions and some interesting plot points, and I really do like her as a character, so I can't wait for the next one in the series to come out really soon. So definitely check out 12 Kings. I've done a full review up here. The next one I have to recommend is The Shadow of What Was Lost. I genuinely think so many of you who like epic fantasy are going to absolutely love this series. It's the first one, it's the only one that is currently out, although the second one does come out in 2017, so very soon, and it is a honking book, so you will definitely be able to sink your teeth into this one and enjoy it. I would say if you like The Wheel of Time or anything in that sort of same vein, you're probably going to like this. But this story takes out all of the details that The Wheel of Time has and is mostly action, mostly character driven, quite a fun story. We follow a young character called Davian who is a really interesting character because he's part of an academy, but in this academy most of the children there get a power by the time that they're his age, and he's really not shown any signs of developing anything. He's coming up to the day where he has to take his tests, and if he does not take the test and pass, he will be cast off as a shadow. Shadows are basically people who are stripped of their powers or lesser and looks really down upon in society, so you don't want to be a shadow. And he's got 2 best friends who are both magical in their own way and both have their own secrets to hide. So you follow all 3 of these characters and each of them has their own thing to bring to the story and make it really interesting. I definitely think if you like anything like Sanderson and Jordan, you're going to really enjoy this, and I would 100% recommend checking this out. And definitely do it in time for the second book to come out so that you are ready and waiting, just like I am, for that second book, which I know is going to be good. The next series I have to recommend is a lesser known one, I think. I don't think as many people have read this one. It's the Hollow Gods series, and it starts with Smiler's Fair by Rebecca Levine and follows on with The Hunter's Kind. I adored these books when I read them, particularly the second one I really rated and gave a much higher rating than the first. I just really enjoy both of them. It's set in a world where the gods are kind of interfering a little bit with mankind, but not in a huge way. People have their theories about the gods and whether or not they are interfering. We follow a couple of different characters. One of them is the chosen young boy who is possibly blessed by a god, we're not entirely sure. The other one is a young female character who is part of this tribe that she's married into and then she escapes. There's a lot going on that I find really fascinating in these books, particularly the element of moving people. It's definitely a kind of clan, tribe-based society, and a lot of the societies and peoples within this world are constantly on the move because of these dark things that come out at night, these kind of monsters that they can easily rip you apart and kill you and do horrible things, so you don't want to stay in one place. So a lot of the different ways that these people have come up with surviving involve travelling constantly, and it's just a really, really great concept. I think this is a book series that anyone who likes fantasy would love, and particularly if you are into anything involving manipulative gods, then I definitely think you're going to like this series. The next series I have currently has 4 books out, but I am reading the 3rd, so I haven't read the 4th or own it yet, and that is this series, The Faithful and the Fallen by John Gwynne. It is a fairly classic fantasy series. It definitely has classical tropes such as the Chosen One, such as prophecy, things like that, and again, gods interfering. But I think it kind of twists the tropes on its head a little bit, and it knows that it's playing with, or John Gwynne knows that he's playing with these older tropes, and he's kind of twisting them to make it a more fun, more current, more interesting read. If you want to start this series, it starts with Malice, then goes on to Valor, and then goes on to Ruin, and the 4th book, which very recently came out, is called Wrath, and I'm currently, I think about like 90% of the way through this. I'm listening to the audiobook mostly, so this bookmark is not in the right place. In fact, there are 2 bookmarks in there, so I'm not sure what's going on there. But I'm really, really enjoying being back in this world in the 3rd book, and I'm so excited to go on to the 4th and final one when I finish this one. It's a really, really fun series. Even though it does have classic elements and tropes, I do think it's one of those series that you're just going to enjoy if you like that, and so I would definitely recommend giving this one a go. The next series I have, I've read the first 3 and I own the 4th, but I've not read it yet, and that is this one, The Traitor Son Cycle. It starts off with this one, which is The Red Knight, the second one is The Fell Sword, the third is The Dreadworm, and the 4th is A Plague of Swords, which I've not read yet, but I do have it, and I'm very excited to read it. So this is a series that I think you will like if you like sword and sorcery or mercenary bands, because that is what this focuses on. We follow a young man who is called the Red Knight, and he has a band of mercenaries who are tied to him because of various things that he has impressed them with in the past. He and his band is hired by a nunnery to go and protect it from the wilds, which is this very dark, ominous forest where a lot of creepy, horrible, nasty creatures live, and they are constantly threatening the realms of the men in this world. So it's basically a battle between the mercenaries and the wild, but it becomes a lot bigger than that as the series goes on. We see a lot of political intrigue, we see an introduction of various different new characters, including some really great female characters as the stories go on. I really, really like this series. I do think it's one that probably is quite political, so maybe not one for everyone, but if you like great fight scenes, and if you like politics, and if you like interesting characters with really cool backstories and morals, then I definitely think this is a series that you will like. Miles Cameron writes excellent fight scenes, one of the best writers of fight scenes that I've ever seen, so certainly one I would hugely recommend you check out. The next series I have to recommend is this one. It is the Moontide Quartet, and I've read all of these and I've absolutely fallen head over heels in love with David Hare as an author, who is the author of this series. The series starts with Mage's Blood, it goes on to Scarlet Tides, then Unholy War, and then Ascendant's Right. And he is currently working on another series, which is a quartet as well, to follow on from the ending of this one and introduce new characters and things like that. So I'm so excited about it. If you like Game of Thrones, but you feel like there are not enough different influences from like Eastern culture as well as Western culture, and if you like Game of Thrones but you feel like there's not enough lady characters, read this series, because this series has influence from both Western and Eastern culture. It's a really great look at both of those blends. It definitely takes influence from our modern day world, but also from more ancient cultures in our world, which is really, really great to see. And we have a lot of fantastic characters. It is a multiple viewpoint story. So many of the characters in this are really intriguing and very different to what I normally see, and I particularly think some of the female characters in this are characters that I love to root for and would definitely recommend checking out. If you want a great epic series of fantasy, Please read these. Honestly, I absolutely love them, every single one, and I would recommend all of them to you right now. Next up, I have a series which is currently 4 books long, but I believe there's going to be a 5th one, and this is the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. It starts off with The Black Prism, then The Blinding Knife, then The Broken Eye, and then The Blood Mirror. And The Blood Mirror is new out in 2016, so it's a fairly recent release. I love this series. I have really enjoyed all of the Brent Weeks books I've read so far, including the Nightbringer series, but this is by far my favourite of his series. I much prefer this to the Nightbringer series. If you like the way that Sanderson does magic systems, but you feel like you're not really getting that from any other author, I think Brent Weeks is the closest I've ever come to a Sanderson magic system, but more complicated. This series deals with a magical system that looks at colour, and colour is the source of magic in this world. Certain people are able to draft different colours, which means like use them as magic. Certain colours will give you certain abilities, kind of like the different metals in Mistborn, but the complicated system in this allows a lot more freedom and a lot more creativity. I definitely think it's a really, really great series, and the characters and the world keep on growing as the books go on. And the thing I think best about this series is that Brent Weeks constantly surprises me. He just knows how to throw twist after twist after twist, and I never see them coming, and I'm always just shocked and amazed and in awe of his writing, so I really would recommend these. I loved them. The next series I have to recommend to you is the Tales of the Ketty J series, which is by Chris Wooding. This is what I would class as a steampunk series. Even though it's not hugely dependent on steam itself, the machinery and the time period definitely lends itself to a kind of steampunk era. This series starts with Retribution Falls, then goes on to Black Lung Captain, Iron Jackal, and The Ace of Skulls. I read these quite a while ago. I did them as a buddy read with Mercedes and a couple of other people, and we really enjoyed them. They're light-hearted, they're fun, they're amusing, and they've got a great cast of jokes and characters throughout. It is definitely one of the most entertaining things I've read in a long time. It's kind of like steampunk pirates. They are pirates who have airships and they can fly around and rob each other and betray each other and tell lewd jokes and be funny and silly and just get into all sorts of scrapes and trouble. It's definitely one of the most entertaining series I've read in fantasy or steampunk, and I think it's just bizarre and great and wonderful and light-hearted and just filled with fun. So again, I would hugely recommend that you check this series out if you've not already, and let me know what you think of them because they are just on point. The next series I have to recommend is also a steampunk series, coincidentally, and this is the Parasol Protectorate series by Gail Carriger, which goes Soulless, Changeless, Blameless, Heartless, and Timeless. So there are 5 in the series. I honestly think this series is one of the most witty, funny, but also light-hearted and romantic series I've ever read. I don't really read lots of paranormal romance, but I would say this is a steampunk paranormal romance. It's definitely got some steamy moments. It's definitely got so much wit you could cut it with a knife. It's really, really funny. And Gail Carriger knows how to do romance in a way that it doesn't overpower the story, but it certainly pulls on your heartstrings and you are rooting for that relationship. It's set in a world where women don't necessarily have any status. It's kind of like Victorian England or something like that. But we have a queen, and we also have Alexia Tarabotti, who is a fantastic lady character to follow throughout this series. She is a soulless, which basically means that when she touches a vampire or a werewolf, which are quite common in this world, she can drain away their powers and they become mortal. And if she touches a ghost, then it will just die. So she's definitely a cool character to see as the story goes on. She meets some romantic interest, she gets into all sorts of scrapes and trouble. It's really great, it's so fun, it's so light, it's such an easy read, and definitely a series I think a lot of people would love. This will come as no surprise to you if you have been following my channel at all. But the number 1 series, and I have already put one of her series in one of my previous videos of like top fantasy ever, but it's no surprise that this is in this video, and that is Robin Hobb, and this time it is the Tawny Man series. I recommended her Farseer books in one of my earlier videos, but this time I'm recommending Tawny Man, which is the 3rd of her trilogies. in the realm of the Eldlings. So it goes Farseer trilogy, Live Ship trilogy, and then Tawny Man trilogy. I would not recommend starting here. I would recommend starting with Farseer or Live Ships. Probably Farseer and then Live Ships if you like, but I think either of them is a good start point. And then this one is just fantastic. It's so good. The third book in this series is my favourite book of all time. It made me cry, it made me laugh, it made me literally fall in love with these characters and believe that they were real. I was there, I was in the moment, I was adoring them, and I just love it so much. It is my favourite book ever, ever, ever. And the only series that I could see potentially beating this is her newest series, which is Fitz and the Fool, which I also hugely recommend. But I mean, that's the like 5th series in the realm of the Eldlings. So you would have to read Farseer, Live Ships, Tawny Man, Rain Wilds, and Fitz and the Fool to get to that. So I'm not going to recommend that one because that's a big ask. But I thought I would chuck this one in because it is my favourite book ever. So I can't not include it, and it's so good. It's so good. Do let me know down below if I haven't recommended your favourite fantasy series in this video or the previous ones, which are all linked down below. Let me know what it is so that I can potentially go and add it to my list to buy or see if I've got it on my TBR already. I'd love to read some more fantasy series, so if you have other authors that I've not mentioned in any of those videos, please let me know. Thank you all so much for watching. Let me know your favourite fantasy book ever, if you can, in the comments, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.